It's not about the destination, but the journey. And the more and more you become more conscious and living in the present, the more you stop worrying about the destination and you care more about the journey. The more you stop asking, when is it going to be time? And the more you focus on the process. I say that to say, the last thing that grows on a fruit tree is the fruit. But how interesting is it that we don't want the tree, we just want what it bears. Many times we find ourselves not even wanting what produces the fruit, just the fruit itself. We don't want the process and how it's growing and how it can even be healthy. We want to rush all of the growth part of it, and we just want the reward. We don't want the growth, we just want the reward. How funny. And to connect us to the source here, I'm reading from Psalms 1. Psalms 1, verse 1 through 3. And it says, "Blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor stands in the path of the sinners, nor sits in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is the law of the Lord, and his laws he meditates day and night. He shall be like a tree. He shall be like a tree, planted by the rivers of the water, that brings forth its fruit in its season, whose leaves shall not wither, and whatever he does shall prosper." So good. But I think when we even go here and we're looking at this, that meditation, and to meditate day and night on it is to be conscious, is to be aware, is to be present. Because when you're meditating, you're focusing on being conscious, being outside of your thoughts, but being currently where your feet are. And the fact that it shows this metaphor that he'll be like a tree planted by the rivers of water that brings forth fruit in its season. I think that's a highlight right there. In its season, whose leaves shall not wither, and whatever he does shall prosper. Brings me back to what I was saying before. When your focus is so much on the destination, when your focus is so much on the timing and not the process or the journey, you miss the steps. You miss the growth that made you who you're supposed to be when you're ready to enter these rooms. Like, it's being willing to sit in the stands and what that does for your character development before you ever get on stage. It's the humility in showing up every single day and not getting what you thought you should get, but you still being willing to show up again tomorrow. It's that journey. It's delayed gratification. Because the last thing to grow on a fruit tree is the fruit. But isn't it funny? I see it funny because I think it's so ironic that the reason why we plant the tree in the first place is for the fruit alone. We're not thinking, oh, I want to grow this tree and it just produces fruit. We say an apple tree. We say what we want from the thing before it even is the thing. And a lot of us, we're living our lives the same way we plant the seed. We only want the reward. We're not looking at the growth that's happening. We're not looking at the roots that are spreading. We're not looking at the development in the growth phase. And when we think about it, there's always going to be growing pains. That's to be expected. That should even be in the plan. But when you can start rejoicing in the journey, rejoicing in the trials and errors, rejoicing in the struggles, And sometimes sometimes the process is different, right? And sometimes it's not as easy to be happy with setbacks. But understanding that too is a part of your process. That too is developing you so that you're ready for when it is time. So that you're ready when you do reach the destination. But that should never be the focus. The focus should never be the reward. It should always be the process. Which is why it says to trust the process. Which is why we have all these cliches, but they are cliches for a reason. But woe to the man who rushes his journey, and woe to the man who thinks that he's made it. For he who thinks that the journey is over is truly lost. So it's not about where you're going, but it's the process and how you get there. It's who you become along the way. And the thing about this is not new. This isn't probably your first time ever hearing this. It's not this big, huge revelation where you're like, oh my gosh, you're right. I've been looking at it all wrong. For some, maybe. But it's the fact that you know it, and yet you still place your focus on the things that you don't actually have reach on. The thing that's just outside of grasp, the thing that's causing you to have to extend your reach. That is the point. That is the point when you have to become the person that has to extend their reach. Versus just trying to get things that are already accessible. The thing that causes you to, I don't want to say stress, but the thing that is not easy is worth living for. It's never the things that you already have. Like me getting another one of these doesn't really affect me. Doesn't motivate me. But me attaining something that is not yet in my possession is enough motivation to show up. But what keeps you showing up is not looking for that thing every single day, because what happens if you're only operating for external reward? What happens when you don't get it? That defines who you are as a person. That defines your integrity when we understand and we identify, or not even identify, but just define integrity as being someone or doing what you said that you would do longer after the mood that you said in that's past. And then Mike Tyson, he defines discipline as doing the thing that you hate like you love it. And take that and do with that as you wish, right? Do with that as you will. But I truly think the thing about integrity is big, because life is all about doing the things that you've never done so that you can have the things that you never had. And it's not always about what you putting in this to receive this, but it's that middle part that gets skipped over because your pursuit is so much getting to the end of the race, but it's who you become that you never quit. It's that person. Well, I'm really trying to just lean in here. It's if I use the metaphor of the life is a marathon, not a sprint, right? If I use that saying, it's helping you understand that it's not to say that it's going to be dreadful, but it's more to say that it's who you are first to be willing to even run it, but then also who you become in the middle of the race. Not who you are after you pass the finish line, but who you become while running. And the problem that a lot of us have is that we just want to start and finish, but we don't want any of the process. We don't want any of the growth. It is not to say that you don't want the growth, but you don't want the growing pains that is associated with it. But that's not how life works. If you want the growth, you have to take the pain. In that regard. Just like if you want, I always use these things, I don't know why, but I think it's just because it's so common. But just like if you want to lose weight, you have to eat less. Or if you want to gain weight, you have to eat more. Isn't it funny? And I just say funny to say ironic. Isn't it ironic that the thing that we want the most is on the other side of the thing that we don't want the most? Or maybe I say it better like this. The thing that we actually want to possess is right on the other side of our biggest struggle. If you want to gain weight, you can't gain weight. It's probably because you don't eat enough and you have difficulty eating enough. If you want to lose weight and you're having problems losing weight, it's probably because you're eating too much and you have a problem with eating too much. All that to say that the thing that you are pursuing is right on the other side of the thing that you are avoiding. But life has a beautiful way of making us face the things that we fear. As almost a prerequisite to getting to where we want to go the most. It's in that discomfort where beauty lies. It's almost like the gate. You have to be willing to enter into discomfort to get to where you're trying to go. That awkward phase of knowing you're not going to be good. That phase of knowing you're going to fail. Of knowing that you're going to fall down. And you have to be willing to get back up. That process of knowing that you're planting the seed, but it can only become the tree to bear the fruit that you want if you never pull it out of the ground. Or if you keep nourishing it, even when it's sprouting and it's growing, it never produces what you want yet. This is just the process, such as your life in that regard. And I just think that's beautiful. I think that is so intentional that you have to have faith in what you cannot see. I think it's so beautiful because we can find our own weaknesses in the things that discourage us the most. And throughout our process, in that middle ground, we get to figure out who we are and where we're weak. What are these vulnerable moments? What prevents us from continuing? Or what even delays us from beginning, from starting in the first place? We're able to see it firsthand in our process. And it leads me to something that I was thinking about talking about today. And I think I'll mention it just briefly because I've brought up this metaphor of the tree, right? But it's knowing that once you sow the seed, don't forget to water it. Once you sow the seed, don't forget to water it. Just because you know what this seed can do once it's in the ground doesn't mean that your obligation is done. Yes, it takes a certain level of faith to plant the seed. But that's just the beginning. That's just starting the race. That's just the beginning. Anybody can just start. But everybody doesn't finish. So it's how many times you show up watering the seed, nourishing the seed. And I'm not saying overdo it because that's how you burn out. But being consistent for your sake, if no one else, for your sake, be consistent because this is what you said you wanted. Be consistent because this is the journey that you wanted to take. And knowing that success is inevitable. Knowing that your success is inevitable as long as you continue to keep nourishing it, knowing that your success is inevitable as long as you keep showing up. It just takes you. That's one of my favorite things to say to myself. It just takes you. Because it really does. Like nothing, the path can't be walked without you. Like, yes, the journey is there. It's right there, laid upon, made straight, but it's just a pathway if you don't walk it. It always takes you. Your life always needs you to be willing to live it. So I say that to say that the last thing to grow on the tree, on a fruit tree, is the fruit. But how sweet is it if you're willing to go through the process, to go through the growing pains, and continue to nourish it, continue to have faith and believe that it will be what it's said it would be. How sweet is its fruit then? How sweet is its harvest? And that it will be bountiful, plenty, overflowing, abundance will come from it. Such as your life in that regard. And if you're still here, still watching, still listening, I appreciate it. I really do. Life is funny, isn't it? But more to say, like, life is ironic. And once you start accepting life for what it is, you realize that life is coming from you, not at you. Life is coming from you. You live your life is exactly what you see it to be. A good mind makes a good life, but an evil mind makes an evil life. More to say that there's always going to be two, as a parable, but there's two wolves, a good and a bad one. And the question is, which one wins? And the answer is the one that you feed. You're able to do so much in this life if you're willing to get uncomfortable. If you're willing to step in that discomfort and sometimes manually input yourself in uncomfortable positions. And I don't mean anything anything reckless, right? I don't mean anything like that. I just mean put yourself manually in the growth phase. Plant the seed. Do the thing that people say doesn't make any sense, but you know that it will. Because you have the vision. They can't see it. Life, I'll make it more direct. Your life isn't based off of what happens to you, but your response to it. So don't expect everybody else to see it, and don't even expect yourself to see it as fast as you think. Just be along the ride. Just be in it for the journey, not the destination. I appreciate y'all. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.